Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and today I get to have the pleasure of having Karin back in my channel here and to discuss to her journey working on her personality type, her demons, her animals, and whatnot. So, Karin, welcome back.
Hi, it's good to be back, Kendrick. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I always enjoy talking to you, so it's good to have you back. So before we get started, can you just please let everyone know what your type is?
Yes. Oh, yes, because last time we talked 4 years ago,
Yeah,
I was still debating that I was the audio. I thought I was audio, but they typed me double feminine, NIFE, blast, sleep, consume, play.
and you're an INFJ, everyone's favorite type.
Yes. Oh, I don't think anymore. I think that's gone out. So luckily,
In OPS maybe, but outside OPS, the
outside
INFJ is
OPS,
like,
that's
yeah,
true. It,
yeah.
it it goes strong. That's right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
half the INFJs outside OPS are ESFPs.
Yeah, it does seem like it, right?
Yeah,
The more I get to know people, the more that type themselves as INFJs. Oftentimes they are ESFPs.
right. Because that's like the cool type, right? It's the INFJ.
Yeah, but I mean it's bizarre that it ever became that. I get it. I get why it did become that way just because of the way that the descriptions are written. But
Like,
I mean when you if you know INFJs in real life, I mean I know you do.
yeah.
At least unless you've changed your guess for your sister. Like
Oh,
we struggle in life. It is like we are not built for this world, and I'm just realizing that now. Like I'm coming into my prime halfway through life. I'm finally coming into my prime, but the first half of life was really rough.
right.
So I don't think if you actually are an INJ, maybe there are some that are a little bit different animals, activation, whatever, that thrive better than I do. I'm sure that's true. But for the most part, I don't think we're well designed for like, especially Western culture that is very production, TE heavy.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I think the real INFJs, they don't care that they're an INFJ, like from what I've seen. It's not like, woo, I'm an INFJ, I'm so special. It's just like, oh yeah, that's my type. I have these struggles, kind of deal, like kind of like what you're saying, like especially
Mhm.
early on in life. Um, and I can certainly relate to a lot of your struggles being like lead intuition. It's like, yeah, definitely not
Mhm.
built for the real world, at least not until you're older when it's more developed, and then you can now work with it. And Anyhow, let's jump in and talk about your journey. Since we're in this topic of like the real world, so SE at the bottom, that's like the real world, right? That's like the struggle there.
Yeah.
Um, can you and before I ask you, just a little slide off tangent. My sister's not an INFJ actually. My sister is an ENFJ. She has decider problems
Oh, okay.
so bad. Everyone is good and evil, bad and good, right and wrong. Like those are the language that she uses. Um, she looks like an INFJ because of the consume last and sleep savior, but the people problems cannot be ignored. So
Got it.
yeah. Anyway, so back to you again.
So, well,
Yes.
wait, hold on. Can I ask you? Because I
Yeah.
actually did want to ask you if you still, 4 years ago, I know you were typing her as, I think you were typing her as NITI. You were typing your other sister as an ENFP.
Yeah.
And um, I'm trying to remember who else. We talked about other people close to you in your life. But anyway, have you changed on either of those? And at that time, I think you were still typing yourself NEFI. I don't think you had been typed by David Shan the NETE at that yet.
Okay. Okay. So um I was type already by just Dave.
Oh, okay.
When I thought I was NEFI, actually the truth is Dave already typed me as NETE before that. I just didn't accept the NET at the time.
Oh, okay.
Because I felt like my FI was way too strong. I mean, now they're kind of validating that if you have double masculine inner world, it does come across that way,
Yeah.
which I do.
Hmm.
So I think you also have double masculine inner world. So
Hmm. It's a strong animal. Yeah.
yeah, so it comes across that way, even though it's not like the savior. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I was originally typed as play consume blast sleep. And then when I
That's
sent in
right.
my videos and then they met me in person in one of their meetups, they realized I was play blast consume sleep, especially my videos because I was like teaching so much and
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you agree with it now? I know it's been some years since that.
Oh yeah, no,
Do you have any even objections? Okay.
no, no, they. when it took me a year to process it, because when they got my typing results back, I'm like, okay, this time around, I know like Dave originally typed me over the phone.
Mhm.
When I did my official typing like several years ago, I finally said, okay, I'm gonna give it 1 year. I know right now I don't completely agree with it. I do agree that I'm NET. I'm not the ENFP.
Mhm.
But like after sitting it for 1 year, and I look back and I'm like, I'm impressed. It is right. I am like
Yeah.
a crackhead, play blast, consume sleep, uh, ENFP, and the reason why I feel introverted is I have those consume sleep swings, like play
Yeah.
blast, consume sleep, and it goes back and forth, right? So,
Yeah.
and then I come across as manic, and then like just recently, as I mentioned before we started recording, I was not diagnosed, sorry, not officially yet. It's unofficial. My psychologist said if I want it to be official, I can get meds, but I probably have it. I have ADHD, so
Mhm.
hyperactive version. There's inattentive, right, and hyperactive. So I think my girlfriend probably
Right.
inattentive. So I'm like, oh, that explains everything. Why I don't have like I have all these issues, you know?
Yeah.
So no, definitely, I feel like I was typed correctly. I don't have any more objections. I think they were spot on with that.
Okay.
My social type, they typed me recently also, but not completely because they're unsure with the two. We can talk about that later. But
Okay.
they're a little bit
You
unsure.
share it. Okay.
I will share, but it's
Okay.
they're unsure. I think I know which one though of the two because after they release the videos and stuff. Um, so anyhow, we got a little off tangent here. Let's go back to you. You you have extrovert sensing at the bottom, and that's the main demon that you have, and your play last. Can you share your experience with your SF play last double feminine journey over the years? Like since you got typed, like do you see yourself working better at it? Like improving at it? Like what's your opinion on your journey with that?
Yeah, so okay, I've been thinking about this since you mentioned this when you asked me to come on. And it's a bit easier for me to talk about engaging SF and engaging play. The two of them together, do I see a lot of evidence of growing my SF play? A little bit, but for the most part, it's developing the SF side of me and it's developing the play side of me.
Okay, let's hear
So
it.
yeah, so the play, so the when I was tight, Dave's well, that was back when Dave and Shan did audios. Actually, I think I've heard they've started that up again.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah,
That's
they're doing
very
it.
cool because that was a big benefit to have that. And Dave did this really sweet audio for me where he just spent a lot of time on because my typing video, I'd spent so much time talking about my, where we're obviously play last struggles that I have in life. Talking about that with you just before we started recording, like super low energy and looking back on it now, understanding my life that I had for many years as a stay-at-home mom to little children and just running a household required so much ST blast, which is, my shadow functions, like as you were sharing for you.
Right.
And that just like really it required, and there were aspects that I could use my skill set as well, but for the most part, it really put me in a demon state, like 24/7 almost. And so a super low energy. And I tend to run lower energy anyway, because so much of that energy is spent internal processing. And so, but that just like it kept my energy very low or drained my reserves. So he just gave me, I spent a lot of time on my typing video talking about ways that manifests. And he made this really sweet audio for me where he was just trying to give me some coaching and perspective on engaging play. And one of the things that he had pointed out, actually, I went to rewatch our interview yesterday that we did 4 years ago, just so I could see what we talked about. And I talked about this at the very end when you had asked, like, do you have any advice for other INFJs? One of my things that I shared was just, in a sense, like he had my earpiece. Sorry, it keeps like it doesn't want to stay in my ear. I may have to get rid of these. They're kind of driving me crazy.
You're still
Anyway,
an IJ at the end of the day. Like,
yes, I am. Okay, so re-engaging. Yeah, to so part of my issue was that I would go through these swings where I would realize I was like shutting myself down. I wasn't saying yes to anything. I was always just keeping a lot of energy in reserves for that moment down the road when I might need it. And um, so, unlike energy DOMs where they're a lot more balanced with that, like do something, take a rest, do something, take a rest. I was doing a lot of hoarding energy for that moment when I would need it, and I never knew when that moment would be, because with little children, things can come up all the time where like, oh, all of a sudden I didn't get a night of sleep because my child was up throwing up, that sort of thing. Like, so you always hoarding. And then I would go through this, I need to branch out. I need to do things. I need to say yes, and say yes to too much, take on too much, and then scare myself. And it would reinforce for me, oh, I can't do this. Like, I'm not in a season of life where I can actually say yes to things. So I need to keep my world small. And I would go through these swings like this. And so one of the things that David had just advised me to do, at which I started implementing, it was wonderful advice, was just the tiny little steps of exposure therapy, exposing myself to a little bit of chaos, exposing myself to a little more chaos, instead of trying to say yes to a bunch of stuff. So that's what I've, over 4 years. I mean, my part of it is just life seasons. I mean, the time that you and I talked, I had my fourth baby was born like 2 weeks later. And so I just hit a really, I mean, it was an intense season anyway, but it was just, at that time, it was like being thrown from the frying pan into the fire with what was going on. But that information for me really did help carry me through a very rough season of life. And now, there's just so much more freedom in life, to where freedom of movement, to where I have so much more energy. And so I can say yes, I can just jump into things. I can interact with people with so much more vigor than I could before. But yeah, for a long time, that was especially up till that point of being typed, that was something I just had a lot of fear over. And I won't say I don't have any more fear over it, but I know how to put it a little bit more into its proper place, that it's not going to kill me. So
Right. And then what about the SF side of things?
well, SF, so like being responsible for NF and NT over SF and ST, for me, it's where it's so I've prioritized a lot of things, especially that are like internal world and relationship, like the state of others' well-beings, like that are 30 years down the road, that kind of thing. That's what I have prioritized over the here and now and what's happening. And so but whenever I've been in seasons of life where I can have more, where I have more margin, then I do engage that ST and SF side a little more. So now it's just been much more of a conscious effort to, especially with SF, bringing a lot of beauty to my world. I think I see it as being teamed with both SF and ST, in that I'm learning a lot of how to do things that are tied up with the SF. So, for instance, like things having to do with like makeup techniques or hair techniques, these sorts of things where you just spend a lot of time on YouTube or whatever watching stuff.
Right.
And then, but it's to serve the SF. And or just things like having time. I've been putting my office together, so it's very colorful and vibrant. And I actually think that to me the word vibrant really well describes the SF play animal. I think SF play is a very vibrant animal. Energetically it's vibrant, but it comes out, I mean, having it manifested in vibrant colors makes a lot of sense to me. So
Yeah.
I don't know, you can't really see it around here, but it's very colorful in here. So
I think it's a double feminine flavor of it, because like how you're describing it is kind of like how my girlfriend describes it, also double feminine, also IJ.
She's NIFI, if I recall correctly. Is that
Yeah,
right?
she was officially typed by David Shan as INTJ NIFI sleep consume play blast.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she's a social type 4.
Okay.
Which yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. So
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, she likes like bright colors, vibrant and all that stuff.
hmm
So yeah, I can, yeah, that's definitely something that you guys share. Um, you know, but she has double activated SF though, so
That's right. Yeah,
yeah,
she would.
because her
And that's a
consume,
savior for her. Okay.
yeah, it's a savior, right? Um,
Yeah. She
okay, cool.
probably takes a lot more regular responsibility for it than I do. But yeah, I'm definitely in a season of life where bringing beauty into the here and now is something I'm prioritizing a lot more than I had been.
I think she consumes it. I don't know if she executes it often. Like that's
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of like Shan talks about like just having her Pinterest. She just has, I mean, does your girlfriend have like a really stocked up Pinterest
She used to,
boards?
not anymore. She's a TikTok person now. So
Ah, TikTok.
yeah, that's terrible. A TikTok thing is evil. Like then you know, it's not good unless you have like I feel like unless you're like Dave with consume last, I don't think you should be touching like you shouldn't be going there for hours on end. I think it's dangerous, you know.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I did join TikTok because there was one particular person I wanted to see their things and but I don't get stuck on there. I know people that get stuck on there, but I don't, it's not an issue for me. So I guess maybe just consume demon in general may just not have too much of an issue with it.
I think infodoms probably don't get stuck on it as much.
Oh
Because
yeah.
we're balanced with the blast and the consume. So we
hmm
know, oh hey, time to stop consuming. Oh hey, time to stop blasting. Time to, we gotta,
hmm
we can't get stuck in this thing, right?
Right.
But we're not balanced with the energy stuff. Um, like I don't know if you saw that video that David Shannon showed of like Uzair talking about like being play last, and the play last problems with energy, and the way he described
This
it,
is from like a year ago.
something like
Okay.
that. Like, but
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way yeah, it's like you guys lose energy because you're putting on a facade. I don't know if you do that or not. Like you maybe you can share with that with me or not. But like, do you feel like you put on a facade when you're with the outside world, and then it like drains your energy trying to keep up this appearance? You know?
Yes. Well, I think that there's the what does this moment call for? What does this social moment call for? What's the socially appropriate way to present?
Right.
That will, sometimes it's very it's not aligned with where my internal world is at that point in time. So
Right.
yes, that is a facade. I think that these days it's not as often where there's such a where how I'm presenting externally is so divergent from how I am internally. So I think there's been because that's been a big work of mine. Sorry, I'm getting croaky.
No worries.
That's been a big work of mine. Actually, last year, year and a half or whatever, and some of that material that Uzair and others were talking about was pivotal for me in talking about the ways that especially play last will not bring the internal identity out to the world as often, and so there could be big things happening inside that are not being expressed outside. And then as I've experienced it, just having like these when I'm finally have figured out where my identity is, where I'm set, and then finally presenting that, and then it can be kind of shocking to other people because they didn't it was such a big change that happened, but it was all happening inside. So that's been a big work of mine actually this past year has been to much more regularly give um express where I am, these updates in smaller increments so that I'm not surprising people with big updates.
Right.
So the people that matter, the people that matter to me, and the people that might even be orienting their life around somewhat around where I am. So yeah, that's been a big thing. But anyway, to get back to the point, yes, there is a facade, and usually it has to do with like what is socially appropriate in this moment, even if it's not where I am, and figuring out how you can actually have both, and you can show up authentically with where you are and be socially appropriate. that's kind of the, a little bit of the game. Well,
Right.
not a game, but
Yeah. I guess it's a game for you guys to play last. But
yeah, I mean, it's kind of better to gamify it, right? But it's really just like it's kind of the work. The work is probably a better word than the game, because
sure.
the whole point of it's kind of a game to begin with, to be showing up uh as projecting something that's not true to where you are, and having a facade that is a bit of a game to begin with.
So what do you have an example of, like, when people found out your true self, like the real NT, double masculine NT like world, and you brought it out the light, and then they were like shocked at, like, oh my God, this is you, like what is that like being NT in the inside and like showing it to people? Like what is the shock factor there that you kind of were like saying?
Well, yeah, I think it's just like updated. So updating beliefs. I use the word updating, but really it's like a building process. But it's like, so getting new in that informs, oh, I'm building something different now. And then, so this is, very much consume and sleep in the middle there, working very in tandem for me.
Right,
So bringing in the new, but on my own, building on what my beliefs are, what my reasons are for what I do, what's in alignment for me, which direction am I going, what's my vision for life. These things, doing that, and like my purpose for doing it uh, quietly or even secretly would be in two part. It would be for my own benefit, but it also be, the intention was for others' benefit. For my own benefit, it was so that I didn't have people coming in and messing with it, and I could really figure it out for myself before some others' opinions were like tainting. Then mainly because, especially for that TI,
right,
it's because it's a demon. I'm easily persuaded by someone else's opinions, and then I don't feel as much permission to still figure it out for myself and do it my way. And so I'll guard it. I'll guard that until I've become solid, and then I'll be like, okay, this is where I am. This is what I believe. This is what I'm doing. Whatever. And so that was, it's partly for a favor for me, but also a favor for other people. So I wouldn't be like, in my mind, wishy-washy. I wouldn't be saying something about myself and then saying something different about myself a bit later, because to me that was bad. And now I'm learning to accept that. Like, people change their mind. It's fine. People, you can say that you think one thing or believe one thing, you're doing one thing, and then you can say later that you've changed your mind, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, to
right.
me, that was bad to do that. It felt really what's the word I'm looking for? It
Like,
just,
like blasphemous kind of.
well, it felt mm, words are not coming to me, but you probably get it. I guess you get
Yeah,
it.
the feeling, yeah. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so
So
you were
anyway,
softening that sleep of yours, like instead of like making it, instead of like double masculine, you're trying to make it a little bit more feminine, like make it more movable as opposed to like rock solid, you know.
well, it's a couple things that I've been doing in the last year or so. It's been one, I've been exposing that sleep world to people, whether they're close to me or sometimes even people that like are not as close, but just exposing where I am, what I'm doing more more often, and even if I don't feel solid on it. And so that, because then, it does open up, because of that, it does open up the opportunity for input. And so it's doing the benefit of, first of all, if I'm getting a little bit wonky on what I'm building, it allows input from the outside to inform where I'm going off. And also it allows me to strengthen that TI that still feels a little bit insecure, to be like, no, I can get input from the outside world and still decide to do it my way.
Right,
I don't have to like neglect that just because some strong opinion came outside and told me that I'm wrong or I shouldn't or whatever.
right.
So yeah. Anyway, did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, it's fine, it's fine. I like I just wanted to see it from your perspective, so it's good that you shared it from your perspective.
Yeah.
um I find it funny when I have friends that are play last, because I have a friend, he's like he's the same type, same animals as you, except he's an INTJ.
Okay.
So blast, sleep, consume, play also. And like when I
Mhm.
first met him, I was kind of trying to match his where he's at, like with a low energy and stuff, and like more talking like a more info dominant way. Um,
Yeah.
but then the longer I know him, I'm like, no, why am I doing that? I'm gonna be myself. I'm gonna be the play blast crackhead. I'm gonna
Mhm.
inject him with the play blast energy and see what would happen. Um,
And how does he respond?
it's good. It was good because I think like if you're someone that's like play last and you talk to someone that's high play, the energy matches. It's like a perfect match. Like it
Mhm.
it clicks. Um, because essentially the high play person is making up for whatever you're missing,
Yeah.
So, and then just like your double activated sleep is making up for their lack of their sleep last, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Um, and also I noticed because like my friend, he's very controlled. Also, he's very controlled. He's very like when he talks to people, he's very like he doesn't say anything without thinking it through first. So it's like almost feels like it's like artificial or manufactured. Um,
All right. Yeah.
right? Because if you have to think things out if what you say, it's rehearsed. It's no longer authentic. Because
Mhm.
authentic is more spontaneous, right? So I noticed by injecting him with a play blast and just being crazy with a play blast that I give him permission to do that, and
Yeah.
and then giving him permission to do that, I from what I've seen, he relaxes, he chills out, um, and then so the social interaction becomes less tiresome, because like if you're play last, it's tiring to be with people, right? Like so
Mhm.
it becomes less tiresome because you just be yourself, right? It's like, oh, this high play guy is like giving me permission to just be myself. Okay, if that's okay, then I can, because like typically you need permission to use your last animal or whatever, right? So,
Yeah.
so now it's like, oh, I can use play. Okay, then I'll start like saying crazy stuff too and swearing and whatever, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
interesting. So now when I meet other play last people, I don't hold myself back anymore. I just like I'm gonna be my crackhead self, and hopefully that gives you permission to be just yourself. And there's no point of like having to put a facade on. We can just be authentic, just talk normally, and
Yeah.
yeah. So that's my new strategy now for you guys. Talking to
Well,
you
I
guys.
think that's a cool thing you discovered, and I remember well because I just watched that interview yesterday that expressing to you that I actually do I enjoy being around higher energy because then I can appreciate the higher energy. I can even engage it, but I'm not the one having to bring all of that energy.
Right.
But then I may duck out earlier than most other people. But I do like it. So exactly what you're saying, the high play is something I like being around. It does get draining if it's solely directed at me, like tons of questions, that gets draining. But if it's just like energy in the environment or in a social environment where I can engage and then sit back and just watch or whatever, it's actually quite nice. Because you're right, it's a side of us that wants to come out, but being the one responsible to bring it out and carry the energy in the environment is very difficult to sustain at least.
I think there's also two kinds of energy. I think one of them would drain you, and that's the energy dom version. So if the person's like play blast sleep consume versus play blast consume sleep, I think the sleep consume would drain you. Because it's not the energy that feeds you essentially. Because essentially we're both infodoms, and that's the communication that we talk to each other. So if
Hmm.
two infodoms are talking to each other, and one is more mopey and one is more crackhead like, there's like a good match. It fits, because
Hmm.
you're both speaking the same language. It's just missing, filling in the gaps that's missing, right? But if one person
Yeah.
is like a crackhead, but they're like energy dom, and the person that's like a mopey is like a info dom, oh my god, then you're gonna get drained so hard, because I get drained by energy doms, like so I'm like, I don't want to like I
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, okay. No, no, I'm just saying like, no, I don't want to be goofing off right now. I want to have a like talking and stuff. Like I want to goof off in
Yeah.
small bits. Because I do have the lead play, so I do like to goof off. But the goof off is like supporting document to the information, you know,
Yeah.
not the
Like
main.
a real conversation, but you don't mind having the goofing off in the middle of that.
Yeah, I'll throw in some jokes,
Yeah.
some humor stuff in between to infuse like energy into it. Because like if you're just talking about pure information, it does get dull and boring, and
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's also awful. So a little bit of play in between to infuse energy is good, but too much play, not enough like info dumbness is exhausting. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I feel the same. I was thinking about this because I was just with my family, or some of my family, some of my siblings last week. And the whole, we get really silly when we're together. And I think that, but what we do have substantive conversations, and the silliness just kind of weaves in and out of the substantive conversations. Like you'll have really serious topics and just like joking that comes out of the serious topic just to bring some levity
Right.
to it, that sort of thing. So yeah, I do feel like for the most part, that's how things roll with my family, and I enjoy it a lot. It does get a little bit much for me sometimes, where I want to engage, like bring it down to a level of like, oh no, let's actually talk about something more substantive here. But for the most part, it's a lot of fun. So I do enjoy it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed about you guys, like wait, I lost my train of thought. Ah, so annoying. I still have SI in the bottom, so I always forget things. So annoying. Um,
That's all right.
let's talk about the social type. If that comes back, I'll bring it back again.
Okay, sounds good.
So
Yeah.
annoying. So social type is new. I noticed in the community the IJs are slower to adopt it. That's kind of funny I noticed. You're not the only IJ I've spoken to that is like,
Oh, cool. Okay.
yeah. I don't know why you guys. I don't know why it's like you guys are slow to adopt the social type. But
So
whatever.
I've seen a different pattern actually. It's interesting you see IJs. I see it as like, to me it looked like TE saviors were the very first, which is no surprise in a sense. But like TE saviors and people with TE in their stack.
Right.
And those of us, especially those of us with FE savior, we were like, eh. And I think it's because of the way that it's described. It doesn't really hit FE very well. It's a very like it's like to me the way that the social types are being discussed is like the spectrum of ST, like production in the outside world, and where are you on that? So I think that's part of where I'm like, I don't,
Oh,
I
I see.
struggle to engage it. I struggle to engage the topic, and also I just have way too much on my plate to where I haven't prioritized. Like if it's not super interesting, because it hasn't become very interesting to me yet,
Yeah.
that I haven't spent time really learning about it. I watch their videos and all that, but I haven't spent time really learning it like some of the people that I see have gotten very engaged in the topic. And for some people, it's like it is the most important information in OP, and so like, well, clearly I'm missing something, or I'm just like it's not for me, or maybe I'm just slow. That could be too.
Yeah. I don't know if it's an FE thing. I noticed the IJ for sure. Because like I've spoken to other IJ people. I'm like, hey, can we talk about social type? They're like, I'm not on board yet. And I'm like, okay, we won't.
Yeah, I have seen it, but I've seen other IJs in the community that were like, "Whoa, this is so
Right.
significant right now." Yeah. So I don't
That
know.
the consume savior ones were on board right away. The demon consume ones were
It took a little time. Yeah.
they're not on board
That's
yet.
no surprise. No surprise
Yeah,
there.
not on board yet. I mean, even for me, at first I was kind of like iffy about it when I saw it because I do have demon consume also. But I'm also infodom though, so I'm like, okay, I just need more information to validate this idea. It's not like a new concept that they introduced. They talked about it a long time ago, actually. I don't know if you remember. Like,
Yeah. Well, and they've sprinkled it out through years, but like, they sprinkled it out. I'm trying to think even. It's been. It's been a long time since I remember them explicitly. I don't know if they actually called it what they're calling it now, but yeah, the concept it's been around.
they called it human interest long time ago. They called it like work status, safety, and people.
Okay.
They use it as they use human interest to describe it long time ago.
Okay.
So they're like, yeah, there's four human interests, and then Dave is like, yeah, I like work and friends, and then Shan was like security and status, and then she's like, oh yeah, she she didn't want to accept that she wanted status, like at first.
Mm.
That was like a long
Mm-hmm.
time ago. It was like the first year when they had classes and stuff, right? But I never forgot it because I thought it was an interesting concept. So when they looked it back, I feel like they talked about this long time ago. I guess it wasn't part of the system yet. It was just like an observation at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then they're seeing like, why is this, let's say, why is this INFJ different from this INFJ? Or why is this ENFP so different from this ENFP? They're the same type, they're type twins, but why are they so different, right? Like what's the
Right.
difference? And it seems like it was the social type that made a difference. Like humans are like contradictions essentially, right? Like they type like
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Peterson, for example, as he's an ENTP, but he's a 3, right? And then I don't know if
Right.
do you know the definition with the 3 yet? I don't know if you like.
Well, yeah, so it's what mastery and something like mastery and ego, or
Yeah,
maybe other words being used there. Yeah.
right. Like same, close, like pretty much the same thing. Yeah, specialization and ego, right? So like,
Mm-hmm.
and they're focused on like routine. They're like really like big into routines and um being good at this one thing. And then they have an ego too, and ego is like flex, which is like you like to show off a little bit, so you dress nice, whatever. You're
Mm-hmm.
like if you're a 3, you're the best at this one area. If you're a 1, you want to be the best, period. you know like you know and then there's also the demons, right? If you're a 3, like 3s freak me out the most. As like I'm a 2. um
Okay.
well, they type me either as a 2 or 4. They don't know which one. But after watching their videos, I think I'm a 2, not the 4. Even though I come across as 4. I don't know if you saw the video where they talk about like 1 is like sleep, 2 is like consume, 3 is blast,
Mm-hmm.
and 4 is play. I don't know if you saw that part, but
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's a little bit odd actually. It's been paired up that way, but maybe it's because of the monikers they're giving to it. I wonder if the monikers are a little problematic. But anyway, that's getting away from. So they typed you either
it's
2 or 4, but you now think you're 2. Okay.
either 2 or 4. They weren't sure, but definitely
Okay.
those two. Definitely not a 1. Definitely not a 3. Right.
Okay.
So either 2 or 4, and like, and I look at my type. I'm like, oh man, I'm a walking contradiction because like I'm a 2, but I've demon consumed, so it already like conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have double activated play, and I have savior friends, so that makes sense why I come across as 4. I even thought
Mm-hmm.
I was maybe a 4, but it doesn't line up because I don't relate to the 4 stuff. Like I don't want to, like for the 4, they just want to be happy, hang out with friends all the time, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not me. I don't want to just hang out with friends all the time. My obsession is work, which is 2, right? Work and
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. That's my obsession. Like I like friends a lot for sure. It's a savior. And then like when they talk about like the problem with 2s is like they're not willing to sacrifice friends in order to achieve. That's their like
Right.
the obstacle
Mm-hmm.
essentially. I'm like, yeah, that's my problem. Like I feel understood. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's that if I definitely don't hang out with my friends as much, then I would be better off in my career right now. And because I have proof of this because I did take breaks from my friends. Like I took like a 1 to 3 year gap between my life where I just focused on
Mm-hmm.
myself. And then I upgraded really fast and I went back to my friends and then it's stagnant right away. Right. Um so that's kind of where I saw the problem of being a 2. And also I can't specialize. I have trouble specializing. Like by process of elimination, I was like, okay, what am I missing? Am I missing 2 responsibility? I'm like, no, I take responsibility for everything. Like I way too much actually. Like when David Chan said you should be delegating, I'm like, I need to delegate. You know, friends, not missing for sure. What about the ego, the flex? I'm like, well, no, I have my own blog and it's under my name. I have my own YouTube channel. It's under my name. I I have things that's on my name. And then like, the once in a while I do dress nice and stuff. Like it's not like I'm bummish all the time. There are times where like especially when I was going to my party scene when I was younger, I always like, dress nice and stuff. And when I went to school,
Mm-hmm.
I got into fitness too, right? To get like really fit. So I'm like, okay, I'm not missing one. It's a demon for sure because I don't do it consistently enough, but it's there. So I'm like, well, so what's missing then? Oh, specialization, because I can't pick the career that matches me. Because
Mm-hmm.
maybe it doesn't exist. I've been working in fitness for 10 years though, so you could argue I've been specialized in fitness. But
Mm-hmm.
like, and then now I'm doing the recruitment stuff, but it's like not matching. Uh, you know, so
But
so
what I'd say, Kendrick, is that like you've been in the fitness industry for all these years, but all the while you've been doing a travel blog, which is like not in that realm.
Yeah.
You started doing this channel personality, like, so even while you've been 10 years in the fitness industry, you've also been like putting your tendrils out to other things too,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is, you know, probably just indicates that that is not, it's not true specializing, I guess.
Yes, yes, you're correct. There is a weird side tangent though. Is like I have Saber Blast and specialization is with Blast. So it's like it's almost like a gift because like at least I know my fitness really well. So
Mm-hmm.
even if it's like I think the best way to describe it is what's the word I'm looking for here? It's shoot, what's the name of the word? Oh God, I hate. We're both demon sensory. It's like,
I know.
oh my God, we're terrible at this.
If you keep talking, I might be able to like just gather what it is you're trying to say without.
This always happens when I chat with Otim because I love talking to Otim, and then like I always forget like the stuff that um it's not. Hold on, I think I have it in my phone actually.
Okay.
Let me check. But anyway, while I'm looking up, what do you think is your social type?
Mm. Okay, so this is why I think the way they talk about it matters, and I have to like take the concept and not what they're actually saying and translate it into my own functions.
Right.
So because I mean, you hear when they talk about it, there's so much about like work and doing and production and like okay, that's in that language I probably would be a 3. But that's not like the language I speak, and that's not the way I take responsibility in the world.
Right.
So to me, if when I translate it, I think I'm a 2.
Yeah, I knew you weren't a 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell.
Can you tell me why? You know a lot more about this than I do. Oh, and if anyone's watching this and wants to weigh in on what, if you have gotten to know me and want to weigh in on what you think I am, I'm all ears.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the biggest contradiction about your type. I think it's really cool, but it's also a huge contradiction. You're play last, but you love friends. That's what I've noticed. Is you like people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't have much energy for them, but you like them a lot. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're and you like having friends. You don't shy
Yeah.
away. You're like the play last that likes people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like a contradiction, right? It's like I want people and I wish I had more energy for it. You know, that's kind of like the struggle, right?
Yeah.
Because I interviewed Stephanie, she's also play last INTJ,
Mm-hmm.
and then she's like, yes, I like friends, but I'm play last. I don't have energy for friends. It's
Yeah.
like it's so annoying, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
What does she type herself? Social type.
Two,
Okay.
yeah, like she even had her own business too, like a pure two, you know. She was doing like I don't
Yeah.
know, I think tutoring or something, and then
Mm-hmm.
um, but play last, right? Like it's like I want friends, but no energy for friends. Don't know how to
Yeah.
don't know how to reach out to friends, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Can't make new friends. Stuck with old friends, you know. Like it's like, which is not a bad
No,
thing.
actually, making new friends is not the problem. It's more sustaining the connections. Like
Yeah,
because with that blast first, I'll be like, I'll ping people, you know, get start conversations or whatever.
right,
It's the sustaining the conversation that is really hard for me. So
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Um. Anyways, I remember the word now.
What is it?
It's cognitive dissonance. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know if are you familiar with that like
Hmm.
terminology? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like let me just pull up my notes here because good thing I wrote it down. Um, right. So I was having like so me and you we both have cognitive dissonance I think with our social type and our actual OPS type.
Yeah.
Because your play last, but you have save your friends, so clash, right?
Hmm.
And then I have save your consume. I have sorry I'm a 2, but I've demon consume, right? And also we perceive our internal world as like what's real, essentially. Everyone identifies with their inner world, right? Like that's why like a lot of the ESFPs who like freak out and stuff, they're like, I'm not this type, I'm not the ESFP, because like David Chan complained, like I think ESFPs complain the most about like getting this type, whatever.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
no offense to ESFPs, everyone loves ESFPs, but yeah, like
Yeah.
everyone that got missed that typed themselves upside down were probably an ESFP. But anyways, just making fun of you guys. So yeah, it's like the cognitive dissonance because you're double activated sleep and you're double masculine, but then your one is like a demon, right? So there's like a conflict between like what you really desire versus like what your social type is saying, which is like I want to take responsibility for other people and I want friends. So there's like a conflict between the inner world and what's happening in reality, you know.
So I think this is where I'll say that if we're talking on a spectrum of what is being produced in the outside world, then yes, that is well, I would say even produced in the here and now world.
Right.
Then yes, that's the case. But like this is where for me, why one of the reasons I had to translate it was because the responsibility for other people is something that is done for the large part of where I'm taking responsibility for others is in the experience realm, and it's like decades down the road kind of experience. Well, decades sometimes it's like a year down the road or whatever. It's in the future. So future experience, future story is kind of where I'm taking responsibility. So there's like most of what I'm taking responsibility for is not something that would ever be tied to something was produced. Like by the time it ever comes to fruition, it's probably long forgotten that I ever did anything to make that happen, if that makes sense. But there's still that like I'm responsible for this tribe and where this tribe is going, where this tribe's experiences are going to be in like a generation from now. That's what my responsibility is. So that's why I have to translate it.
Oh, I see. I guess the NI is like that has a big influence on that, like because you're
Well, it's NINFE. Yeah, it's together. It's
right.
I mean, like, so here's an example of this. So when I became a mom, my oldest is almost 15 now. So just
How old?
pretty
Sorry.
shortly, yeah, he's almost 15.
Oh my God, it's a teenager.
He's a
Yeah.
teenager. Yeah, I almost have two. My second is almost a teenager too.
Oh my,
But
did you have kids really early or something? Like you still look young, so I know.
no, I'm 42.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
you don't look like it, but okay.
thank you. Um, so anyway, just shortly after he was born, like within that first year, that was when I started to become aware of just how much of my own really what I would call generational trauma that I was waking up to at that time. And becoming a parent was something that opened me up to a lot of an awareness that I don't want to continue on. Um, I don't want to pass this on. I want this to stop here with me. And so it's my responsibility now to do something about it. And so, but really the work I was doing was work that I felt pretty certain I would not see much of the results for probably a good 30 years, whether I had done my job of changing all of that. And that was for a good dozen years, the first dozen years there, that was my primary objective, was doing that. But it's what that work was almost entirely internal inside of me, because I knew that if I didn't change, if I didn't uproot a lot of what was my default at that point, then I would just automatically carry it on,
Right.
unconsciously carry it on. And so that was a lot of it was internal work in me. And then it started to spill out into of course it started to spill out into the way that I would speak to my children, the way that I would discipline, these sorts of things. But for the most part, it was like, I won't see whether I did my job for a long time down the road.
Right.
The way that like the responsibility I'm taking now is not something that come to fruition for a long time. So that's just an example of how that looks. Like it's my job, and I knew that I knew it was my job. Like no one else is going to do this but me. So anyway, that's just it's I do have to translate it, but my closest guess is number two makes the most sense.
Yeah, I think you are definitely a two. I see the responsibility and the friends for sure. And
Yeah.
then I think your description of like the NF blast there, I think it's amazing. I've never heard it said that way, and I think that's like I'll probably keep that in my mind now. Like how you're using your NI to heal the tribe, the FE, like so yeah. Um you use the word generational trauma. Does that mean you're Native American then? Or part or something?
No, I mean, if I have any Native American, no, I don't think it showed up even on my whatever the 23andMe or whatever I did. I don't think that showed up. But no,
You're
just as far as like trauma that you can see passed down my family line,
oh, I see. So
of
just
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 like
your
repeated,
yeah,
yeah, repeated patterns that just keep going and going and going.
I
Yeah.
see. Yeah, because like when I hear the word generational trauma, usually used by a Native American culture. So, but I've always thought
Yeah.
maybe you're like Hispanic, So
Well, I grew up in New Mexico, but no, I'm like let me see. It was something ridiculous of Western European, like a ridiculous amount of Western European on my DNA results.
oh, it's like a
Like,
super mix or something of like a bunch of stuff.
oh yeah, but it's very heavy on what is it? France, England, Germany, I don't know, Ireland, something like it's very heavy in that area. And then there's little twinkles, a few other parts. But anyway,
Oh,
but
okay.
you're Native American? I don't think I knew that.
No, 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 no. I'm not. I'm Chinese, but like
Okay.
no, no, no. Because like I live in Canada, so like in school, it's taught that like Native Americans have generational trauma that they struggle with.
Yeah.
So that's why
Hmm.
when you use the word generational trauma, I'm like, oh, are you Native American? Because like that's like the language that they use. So I was just curious. That's
Yeah,
what
that makes sense that they use that language for sure.
right,
For
right.
sure.
Um, and yeah, it's cool that like how when you said like your work now, you won't see the result till like later on. So I thought that was like really well described and like that clarifies to me what NF blasts, what the purpose is even more, you know. Like
Well, and
what
I'll add on to this because I do um this is my experience, but I've heard it from other FE users. So it isn't just NF blast, it isn't just NF blast savior. But I'll just speak from my perspective that because it's so abstract, it's something that won't be tied back to my work for a long time. And if by the time that it comes to fruition, it may not even there the thread may not come back to, oh, that's something that I was doing years
right,
ago. Maybe it will.
right,
But that's where it's one of those things that has been very hard, I think mental health wise, is having a responsibility for something that the world does not have any like really any weight of value for the most part. There's
right.
little pockets here and there, but in this is part of what I'm saying, like INFJs are not built for this world. Like,
Yeah,
especially the first half of life. I do feel like I'm coming into my prime in the second half of life where a lot of stuff that I was like I finally have enough ST to back up what I'm doing, and there's production now. There's like I would call it fruit above the ground, like there's growth above the ground, whereas for a long time it was underground growth that was happening. And that's it, I think mental health wise, and just having a function that like SE that is so aware of what people value and knowing what I do is not valuable. And that's like it's a big tension, and I think that it's not surprising that a lot of INFJs in particular, like mental health really struggles. And because of that, it's like I'm responsible for this, and yeah, I can see it's not valuable, but I'm still responsible for this. And if I don't take responsibility for that, then I'm starting to get like disconnected from myself inside of myself. The job that I had with my kids to like only I can do that, and I knew that I would get down like down the road by not having done that work, and I would regret it because I knew that was my work to do and I didn't do it.
right.
And so this kind of like It's just a space, and so it's, I see it in myself because my mental health has really struggled because of that. And not thankfully through a lot of my own healing work and just like validating for myself has been part of my work. But then now I'm in a season where the growth is happening above ground. It's a lot easier to get validation for growth that's happening above ground, where other people can point to it and see and be like, oh, you're doing something, and be
Right.
like, yeah, I'm doing something, you
Right.
know. But it's quite a, I did say, I'll just sew that up by saying it's a quite a lot of character growth to go through that, to have to like still be, I think, show up for the responsibility that feels like, oh, this is what my part is in this world, this is my job in this world. And but to not feel like it's, other than little bits and pieces here, to not feel like it's actually valued by anyone around you, even though the world needs it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's like a lot of like INFJs become like counselors or psychologists, because I think my psychologist is also an INFJ. And I think like you guys do a lot of thankless work, because it's not tangible what you're influencing, per se,
Yeah.
but it's important work. And I can see why you feel like it's your calling, even though you also know like it might not be valued by the real world, as much as, because it's not like SF where it's like, oh yeah, you can see it, it's animalistically like attractive or
Mhm.
cool or whatever. You're doing work that's like, how do you even describe it, right? So
And what I'll say about that, because like I'm in school for counseling right now. That's what my master's is in, that I'm working on right now. And like at this point when I'm sitting there, because I've had the privilege of seeing clients already, so I have clients, and at this point they're coming for that. They're coming for what you offer.
right.
Um, but in outside of that context, like what you offer is something that people may not even know they value, may not know to value it at all. And
Right.
so that's where it can be a little hard. But so in INFJ, to find themselves, or to get into a profession like counseling, is perfect, because then what you bring to the world is something that people are coming for, that very thing.
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
I think the double deciding is also a big factor too, because like I think like, as a counselor or psychologist, like I think you need to double decide, because I think that's like a big factor of it, um, to see your
Yeah, although I've
stuff in
had
the,
my own therapists that are double observers, and that's also very valuable.
right.
It's I mean, I like, for me, from myself, having double observing perspective is very valuable to
No,
me,
of
because
course,
I'm
of
not
course.
I'm not seeing that, so.
Yeah.
But that I think a lot of people are coming, they're coming to counseling for the decider issue. So yeah,
Right.
it is helpful to have the double deciding from
Right.
the counselor perspective.
I love double observers for the stuff that I'm stupid at, because like they,
Yeah.
they know how to do it well, and then I'm always at awe. I'm like, well, it's that easy for you guys. I'm like,
No.
and then when they're
Or
being
just the fact of like not freaking out about it, or just like finding it funny.
yeah,
Yeah, just like the whole, like, that's funny to me that you're getting all worked up about that thing. And it's kind of, it's nice to be able to like laugh at yourself.
right,
And I think the same thing with single deciders, when they can be like, yeah, okay, so, and not, I don't even see it as like a demeaning the decider issues, but just like kind of like treating it a lot more lightheartedly.
right,
Sometimes it can be insulting, I know, but I think usually it helps like bring the decider issues to giving a new perspective on it, I guess.
right. The new perspective, I think, is what's needed, per se.
Yeah.
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 All right, Karen. I think we'll wrap up the interview here.
All
So
right.
thanks for coming out and updating us on where you are at in your journey. It's super cool to learn that you're becoming a psychologist or counselor. I
Yeah.
think it's the right fit for sure. Especially your info dom, so it's gonna help a lot to like give clear explanation, and stuff when you're dealing with your patients and whatnot and clients. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's been good catching up with you, and I'll see you around the groups. And
Yeah. Kendra, thank you for having me on again. It's always good to talk to you.
yeah, likewise. All right, take care.
Bye.